Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, aka Friend to Fatherless Daughters on Instagram. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in with us again to episode 14. All right, episode 14. We're pushing them out, hoping that you guys are enjoying it. Today I'm here with another guest, my man Bryce the Third. Mr. Bryce, how you doing?
Yo. What's up? What's up, Ernest? How you doing, man?
I am good. I am good. Glad to have you here, man. We're gonna jump right into it. So introduce yourself to the to our listeners, and then we're gonna go ahead and flow from there.
So my name is Bryce the Third, your emotional wellness mentor. I am an emotional wellness mentor, recording artist, creative, and the host of the podcast. You Feel That with Bryce the Third, the premier podcast for those looking to grow, exceed, and excel in the world as a highly sensitive person.
Right. Okay. So Bryce, before we get into all the other stuff, I know that you have two kids, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is a girl. So
Yes.
I'm a girl dad. So whenever I
Okay.
have a girl dad on, I ask them two questions.
Shoot.
Two questions. Number one, how has being a girl dad changed you as a person? And what is something you've learned from your daughter from being a girl dad?
All right. So how is being a girl that changed me?
Yeah.
So
And you got the experience of having both because you got a son and a daughter, right?
yeah, and I've been a daddy since I was 15. So like I've been at it for real. So, but yeah, my daughter. I think my daughter, like when she was born, it changed my life for real. If it wasn't for, it was just something about her being born, and when she was born, so we can start out with I'm a person who identifies as a person in recovery from substance abuse and alcoholism. And when she was born, I was not yet in recovery. But when she was born and the look in her eye that let me know, like, oh, like you're looking for something. You're looking for something to be able to support you in stability and a foundation. You're looking for something that I don't possess. I think that realization broke my heart enough that it was a big reason that I got pushed over to the edge and was like, okay, we got to do something different. We gotta live differently. We gotta figure something else out. So when you talk about like how has it changed my life, I think that it's like the biggest change that being a girl dad has been in my life. Like she was a catalyst, one of the biggest catalyst pieces of the catalyst that made me kind of like change my lifestyle for real. And what was the second question?
Something that she taught you.
Something that she taught me. So she teaches me every day because the way that she sees the world is just like, so she's 9, and the way she sees the world is just like very, very new. And she's at this age where she's starting to be like exposed to a whole bunch of different viewpoints and mindsets, and you can see like she's getting a whiff of the world, and that can sometimes push some of the newness out of her. And I'll just encourage her to keep that newness in. And I think this is like a perpetual relationship where she brings me the new and then I give her the new back, and she brings me the new and I give her the new back. Because as an entrepreneur, as a creative, like it's always good for me to stay in that energy of like, okay, how can I see with new eyes today? And with her as a 9-year-old, like that she's literally seeing with new eyes. So I just want to make sure that she's able to stay open. And I think that's the coolest thing about, being who I am and doing what I've done that wasn't done for me, because my kids can have a childhood. So I think it's pretty cool.
Cool. I love it, man. And I love to hear the answers when it comes to that, because like I mentioned before on the podcast, it's something about when a man has a daughter, man, it don't care how hard you think you is or whatever, it just brings all of that out of you, bring that whole nother side of you out. So I love to
Mm-hmm.
ask the, girl dads and hear that side of it, hear that side of them that everybody else might not get to hear or see, you know what I'm saying? But that daughter
Yeah.
bring it out of you. So I love it, man. I love it. So we're gonna get ready to jump right, kind of get into it. So I heard you say you're a recording artist. So are you a
Yeah.
singer or are you a rapper?
Nah, rap. And it's crazy. Like,
Okay.
if it wasn't for rap, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for rap, I wouldn't be pursuing a podcast. If it wasn't for rap, I wouldn't be in emotional and mental wellness. I wouldn't be a communicator. I wouldn't have these bookings to go speak. I wouldn't have these after school programs. I wouldn't have any of my mentorship. Like, I wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for rap. Like pursuing my music full time for a year to see if it would work or not was what led me here. And I'm forever grateful for it, and I'm still actively creating. It's just my business is the emotional wellness piece, the helping people with big emotions, helping people to be equipped to handle life on life's terms. I think that's what the business is. And like, I do the music, and I get paid for it. I get bookings for it. We're all around the country with it. But I think the music is more so like, I'm not pressed. Like, I do what I want because, like, I do music because I love it and I'm good at it. Not necessarily because I need to feed my family with it. And
Right.
it's just a whole different level of creation when you approach it in that manner.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of going to take us to the right into the next question I was going to ask you about the entrepreneurship, because actually two parts. Well, I start with one. We'll start with the entrepreneurship because I know that's something that you also kind of teach people about. And so, what I know you mentioned about the rap and the mentor, not the mentor, but the wellness. So are those the only two outlets or entrepreneurship outlets that you have, or do you also have something else that you do also?
Uh, I forget who it was, what teacher it was that I learned this from, but just the hedgehog concept of doing multiple things, but then all of the things being under the same umbrella. And really, if I'm to have a summation of my efforts, it would be in the realm of emotional and mental wellness. Even the music, there is a reflective, mm, inspirational, emotional aspect to it. That, like, the things that I explore in the music, it's it's aligned. It's aligned. Like, the beautiful thing about the business that I'm building around me is that it's aligned with who it is that I am as a person. So when some of the entrepreneurial tasks kick in, and it's like things that I have to pay attention to, like numbers and getting processes and systems set up, like, I'm less likely to burn out because I really appreciate what it is that I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so when we talk about being a artist, one of the things that I know and that you talk about also is creativity. And, creativity comes out in so many different ways. And a lot of times, um, some of the most creative people or some of the most creative things come out of a process of people creating something just to as a release, especially when we talk about emotions. So how important is that, using that whatever your creative outlet is, to get a release of your emotions or whatever it is that you may be dealing with.
So learning, so in this season of my life, it's very important to do what brings me joy, and the catharsis induced by my artistry is something that brings me joy. Like, when I get on stage, like when I'm dancing, when I'm moving around, like, I get outside of myself and into the process of creating and giving and sharing it with people. And that's something that, if you have something like that, like this, or if you have the ability to be able to cultivate, or at least seek something like that, like, it's something that's unparalleled with the human experience. What I found is that sometimes when it comes to creation, so, because there's multiple levels of creation, there's multiple instances of creation, and even like in my emotional wellness business, that is, I create content on Instagram at Bryce the Third. I create daily content to help to kind of activate within people the strengths that they may not know is there, or to just make relatable content that helps people become autonomous in their own lives. And like, it take, like, sometimes I gotta force myself to sit down. So for me, sometimes the muse doesn't come where it's like, ooh, I'm struck with inspiration. Like, most times for me, form follows function. So it's like I gotta sit my butt down in that chair, and then when I sit down in that chair and get my hands moving, then the inspiration comes. So it's a two-way street. Like when I go out and when I perform, when I go and do my and get off like that, that is a cathartic practice, and I really enjoy it. It helps me to release, and the creation of that doesn't necessarily like come naturally. Like I gotta sit down and do it.
Okay, I know I have a sort of the same process somewhat with me, because one of the things that I struggle with somewhat is procrastination, right? So
Mm,
with me, I think I overthink it. You know,
yeah,
I was listening to I don't know if you follow the Social Proof podcast
I
with
do. I
David
do.
Shands.
Yeah.
So David had Grant Cardone on one time, and he talked
Mm-hmm.
about procrastination. And one of the things that Grant Cardone said that I totally agree with is that people don't get stuck. You only get stuck when you're thinking too much or you're trying to do too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he said when you struck with a decision and you overthink it, that's when you get stuck. He said,
Mm-hmm.
so if you're in the car and you're driving and you get to an intersection and you're like, okay, should I go left or should I go right? The more you struggle with making that decision is when you get stuck right there in that same place. So he was like,
Mm-hmm.
just make a decision. You know what I'm saying? Turn left or turn right. It don't matter. You know, if you have to adjust, then adjust. So that's kind of my
Mm-hmm.
thing is I get paralyzed when I think too much. So when I get down to it, it's like, you know what? I have to shut everything off. No radio, no music, no nothing. Just let it get quiet. And then I sit down and then my mind start going. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so and if I even have my music, I have to turn the music off because a lot of times I listen to words. I'm a words person. So if the music is on, I'm listening to the words of the music and then I can't focus. I'm like, you know what? Shut everything off. So ain't
Mm-hmm.
nothing on but my mind. Then once I get in that space, then that creativity just starts flowing and starts coming out. So that's cool,
Mm-hmm.
man. I'm glad you kind of connect with the same
And,
thought
and,
process.
and that's a beautiful thing, because what you just explained to me shows me that you've gotten to know yourself. Like you begin to develop a process that is specific to you and what obstacles may pop up while seeking to create or seeking to make something happen. And you've taken the time to listen to your life's lessons. So a lot of times what we'll do is experiential avoidance, where it's like, I feel pain, I feel procrastination, I feel sadness, I feel anger, but you know what? Now I'm just gonna go ahead and grab something to drink real quick, and now I'm gonna go out with the homies, and now I'm gonna, get with this girl, and now I'm gonna do something other than pay attention to this thing that keeps popping up every time this situation occurs. And what I can tell from what you just shared is that when the situation of procrastination or indecision has occurred in your life, you have taken the time to face it, lean into it, and investigate, like, what is this here to tell me? And then you've begun to build process around that that's specific to you and your experience. So that just goes to show, like, you're intentional about creating your life. You're intentional about creating process around your emotions and some of those things that may bubble up, and that will equip you to have autonomy over your life and have control over where it is that you end up, and you're creating your desired reality. So that's a beautiful thing to see.
Man, you know what? So I'm glad you said that. Two things. One, this last year, I've really gotten into personal development. Like it's been a little over a year now, so I'm glad that it shows. That means I've been doing some. I've been doing something right. You know what I'm saying? And so this year, another thing that you said was intentional. So this year, the two things that I've really been trying to focus my life on is being intentional and being balanced. Right. And so being intentional about whatever it is that I'm trying to do or whatever I'm trying to face, be intentional about the moves that I make. Not just out here saying, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that. No, think about it. I'm gonna do this because I want this outcome. So I'm thinking 3 steps ahead before I make that first step, to make sure that it aligns with where I'm trying to go. And then that balance is just not having too much of one thing, not having too much fun, not having too much work, but being balanced out so my life is even. You know what I'm saying? So that's been my thing this year, to be on that balanced and intentional. That's the 2 words that I'm working for this year.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you said you kind of hit on it, and I heard it when you mentioned about the pain, and a lot of people not taking the time to analyze the pain, right? And so I think most people don't realize that pain is our friend. You know, even though it hurts us, but pain is our friend. So if we think about it, if you never felt pain, you know what I'm saying, then how would you know something was wrong? So if you were stabbed in your back, you can't see it because it's behind you. And if you couldn't feel the pain from it, you wouldn't know that you got stabbed. You know what I'm saying? And you would bleed to death. So pain is actually our friend. And I'm kind of a movie buff a little bit, not a lot, but I'm a big Al Pacino fan. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in the movie The Recruit, I can't remember the other guy's name that was in that was a star in that. But at one time when they was talking to him, the CIA was investigating him or interviewing him, whatever. The guy asked him a question. He said, "What would you rather do? Ride on the train, dance in the rain, or feel no pain?" And most people will automatically say feel no pain. But again, that's because we don't really think about it, that pain is helpful. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that pain that lets us know that something is wrong with whatever the situation that we're in. Something wrong with us personally, you know, whether it's physical, we hurt ourselves, you stump your toe, you cut your hand or whatever. It's that pain that draws the attention to that point that you can say, oh, I just got cut. Let me address that. You know, in your relationship, something just happened. That pain that you're feeling in your heart, like, okay, something ain't right with my relationship. Let me address that. So how would you what advice would you give someone, or just what is your thoughts on people using that pain that they feel and addressing it and recognizing it?
So Bryce the Third is not really big on advice. I do give
Okay.
suggestions, just because I have an issue with like even painting myself as an authority, because I think real authority will let you know like I don't. There's not too much. Like the more I learn, the more I find out I don't know.
Right,
And
right.
this may change the next time you talk to me, because that's what life is. Life is a continuous process, right? Especially if we're tapped in and listening to the lessons. But when it comes to pain, I would just say listen, just listen, like listen, tune in, because the reason that it's happening is because it's there to tell us something. So when we tell somebody like pain is our friend, but like I literally like feel nothing but pain from the moment I was born. Like I ain't had no mama, I ain't had no daddy. My daddy killed in gang violence. He was serving drugs to my mom, and my mom OD'd off the drugs. And he's, you know, like all I know, the earliest memory that I have is pain, loneliness, anxiety. There's certain ways that we got to kind of break into there. Like we can't just immediately just be like, you know, pain is your friend, because it's like, no, you don't, bro, you don't get it. You don't get it. This, you know. So, but I will say, let's begin creating a relationship with these emotions. Let's begin developing a new relationship. Only if the relationship that you have isn't working for you. You know, because if you're not motivated to change, if there's no reason for you to change, you won't seek to change. So usually what I ask is like, okay, the relationship that you have with your emotions, like how's it been working for you? And if somebody replies like, well, you know, not that great. I haven't been able to maintain relationships. The work that I do doesn't align with who it is that I see myself as a person. I had trouble sleeping at night. I think about these things all the time that I want to think about. It's like, okay, well, can we begin to develop a new relationship with our emotions? Would you like to embark on that journey? And if they agree, then there's a couple of few things that, you know, we can start immediately. Number one, I would say, and this is big in my season of life right now, is journaling. So what I've learned about journaling is that energy, emotions, energy and motion can feel as if it can feel a little ethereal. Like I can feel angry one moment, sad one moment, anxious one moment, and it can just like, I don't even know where it is and what it is. And so to begin this new relationship with these emotions is to start to feel those emotions and translate them onto the paper. Like today, I don't feel like going to work. Today, I feel like I can't show up for my kids and them needing me. Today, I feel like I'm not enough in my relationship. Today, I feel like I don't have enough money. Like, start writing these things out, because what ends up happening is attention makes big things small and small things big. So what I mean when I say that is that it makes small things big. On my podcast, You Feel That with Bryce the Third, I mentioned that I want a Model X Tesla. Like, I want a Tesla Model X. And ever since I said that on my podcast, everywhere I go, like, I'm seeing Teslas, Model X's specifically. Everywhere I'm going is I'm seeing these constant reminders, like, oh, here we go. Like, yeah, soon enough, soon enough, soon enough. But before I said these things, before I put my attention on these things, like, I didn't really see too many Model X Teslas. So it makes small things big, in that where I put my attention, it grows. So where my attention goes, energy flows, right? But it also makes big things small. So things that maybe have been killing me and eating me up. And for example, maybe it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was having maybe close to what we consider a mental breakdown. And because I had the tools in place, like, I was able to turn it into a breakthrough. And what I found was that I had all this energy in me and I didn't know what it was. And it was just, I felt like I was blocked, and I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling not supported. I feel like ain't nobody there for me. I feel like I'm doing all this stuff and I got this burden on my shoulders. And then I feel like it's an emotional rope around my neck. And then I went to my journal and I wrote down in my journal, I'm afraid to die. I'm afraid to die. And then when I wrote that down, it's like I can almost breathe, like, and then I proceeded to put bullet points under that I'm afraid to die as to, well, why am I afraid to die? And what I wrote down were kind of legitimate concerns and things that I can do about today. And once I was able to look at these things on paper, like, they were no longer as big and scary and as suffocating as they were when they were just floating inside of me, and I didn't know where they were and what they were blocking and how to put a hand on them. So attention makes big things small and small things big. So right now, like, to immediately get started, I would say grab your journal. I don't even got a call to action. I don't got no journal to sell. You go to Home Depot, go to CVS, just grab you a 50-cent journal and really start banging out what you hear, what you think on that piece of paper, and see how your life begin to change.
Right. I have a journal myself. I don't use it every day, but I actually got about 3 or 4 of them. So I definitely know that. You know what? And speaking of journals, since you brought that up, which is another thing I wanted to talk on, was, seeking the right tools to help you to deal with whatever emotions that you're going through. Because so a lot of times people, and I know you said you are, I forgot how you put it, recovery. What is it?
Yeah, so I'm in recovery. So I'm in recovery from substance abuse and alcoholism. Yeah.
Right. So I want to use the term that you used. You said you're recovering something. What was it? You said at the very beginning, you said you are recovering, or you identify as recovering something.
Look, if you ask me, I'm gonna just tell you I'm an alcoholic, man. I mean, that's the language I speak. I'm an alcoholic in recovery. I just got my 8 years last year. But I do a lot of work. Certified peer recovery mentor. I do a lot of work and we try to destigmatize and not use words like addict or alcoholic. But I'll say it quick, like, I'm an addict for real. Just to remind me of how it was and where it is that I come from, and that I'm recovering, and that recovery process never ends.
Right. So, and the reason why I brought that up, because I know that a lot of people sometimes seek substances to help them cope with whatever that they're dealing with, And so I know one of the things that you've talked about before is, instead of seeking substances, to seek seek the right tools, right? And so 2 things I want you to speak on real quick that I've heard you speak on before, or 2 tools, should I say. One of them is counseling, and then the other one is community. So speak on those real quick, on how big are those and helpful are those, to helping you get through that process of dealing with your emotions.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say to all the listeners listening, your host has been doing his homework and listening to You Feel That podcast with Bryce the Third. So if he listening to it, y'all gotta listen to it for real, for real. It's mad value. I aim to bring 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times the value of what somebody would expect when they show up to the podcast. And yes, community is one of the biggest things that when I look back in my personal life, in my personal recovery experience, that has helped me to get outside of myself and helped me to build an understanding of the new me that it was that I was desiring to be. And it's just good to get out of the echo chamber, which is my own head, and get my hands dirty and get around different points of view. Some I may agree with, some I may not agree with, but it kind of stretches what it is that I've come to understand as my identity in a way that allows me to see like more people exist than you do. And then I'm not alone. Like I don't have to seclude. I don't have to, there's a community for everything. There's a community for everything. I do a lot of work with a nonprofit called the Phoenix, which is sober active community. All of our events are free to anybody with just 48 hours of sobriety. And this is like kayaking, indoor rock climbing, hiking, biking, and it's all free to anybody with just 48 hours of sobriety. I've got integration circles that I do some medicine work with. What else I do? I got my personal development circles. I got, my meditation circles. Like I got my 12-step circles. Like sober dads, book clubs, and the morning meetup with David Shands. Like I got all these communities to where it's like we're not linear as people, so we have different interests. And just know that for whatever interest that you have, the beautiful thing about the information is just there is a community for it. And it won't cost you anything except for the attention that it takes to be able to seek it out, because it's out there for real. You don't never have to be alone. Community is big, because if it's just me, I get to be lonely. I get to be in solitude, and it's just not pretty. It's just not pretty. Whereas like with other people, it can still be not pretty, but I don't have to be alone. And when we're talking about counseling, I've had a storied history with counseling. I when I got out of, even before I came into recovery, like as far back as I can remember, I've been dealing with like counselors, therapists. When my granny died when I was real young, like I had like I don't know what it was. It was cathartic. It was kind of like anger management. They let us go hit stuff, and I was a kid just hitting plush stuff, and then yeah, I had multiple counselors and a counselor. So, and if I can leave anything on the floor about counseling, if you go to see a therapist or a counselor and you don't like that therapist or counselor, that does not mean that therapy and counseling does not work. That means that the counselor or therapist that you had is not the right fit for you. Let me say that again. If you go to a counselor or a therapist and you don't like that counselor or therapist, that does not mean that counseling or therapy doesn't work. That means that counselor or therapist was not the right one for you. And the right one for you does exist, because counseling and therapy, it's like a relationship for real. Like I have to like you to even like start doing this deep work internally that's going to turn over some rocks that is maybe like some real ugly stuff. So it's like a lot of people I see will go and like, therapy doesn't work for me. Counseling doesn't work for me, because they went and they had a bum counselor, or they had somebody that just didn't resonate with them. Like their energy didn't collaborate in a way to where it could turn out results. And then they just assume that now counseling doesn't work. That's not the case. That's not the case. Keep at it, and keep seeking until you find that counselor or therapist that kind of jives with you and that you can get in with, so you can start doing this deep work, because that's what it is. It's deep work, and it's better when we don't do this alone. There's a lot that we can do alone, but like what prepares us to be able to do it alone is the strength that we're able to cultivate within community.
I agree with you 100%, because community, when just being in the community or the presence of like-minded individuals, and whatever the field is, whatever the position is, and I've hope I'm not being too redundant on the podcast, because I've mentioned this a couple of times in the last couple podcasts about going to bereavement after my mom had passed. And just being in that circle with those people that all of us had experienced, the loss of a loved one, during that time period, and to be able to talk to each other, encourage each other, uplift each other. And like you said, even just relate to each other and let us know, hey, you're not the only one. You're not the only one that lost someone. You're not the only one that's feeling that hurt. You're not the only one that's, dealing with the new normal of what your life will be moving forward. So definitely I agree 100% with community being definitely important, and not necessarily also in, because that, I guess, bereavement somewhat means you lost something, so that could be looking at as a negative. But another thing that you mentioned was the morning meetup, right? Which is just entrepreneurs all meeting together. Again, that same thing, that community, to be able to uplift each other, encourage each other, and even us on our little thing we got with our podcast community, lifting each other up, pouring into each other, dropping knowledge with each other, to keep all of us going. So definitely community in every form and every aspect of your life is definitely important, and definitely is a benefit. So Bryce, I definitely thank you for being on here, for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. I got one more question. I'm gonna allow you to speak on it. Then you could give your contact information, how somebody can follow you, get in contact with you if they wanted to have you speak or whatever. So
Sure.
I'll give you, I ask this last question, and you're free to expound however you feel on it, and
All
then
right.
we'll go from there. So one of the other things that I know that you deal with that I'm interested in is mindfulness and being mindful of your emotions. And what points could you give us to help us to be able to identify, I guess, or just accept whatever it is that we're dealing with, to help us heal from it. Whatever, I don't even know how to say what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm
I
saying?
hear you though. I hear you.
But I'll just get to you because I know you know how to say what I'm trying to say.
No, I definitely hear you. And really, once again, the biggest suggestion that I can give anybody is just to listen, and to listen compassionately. We can only give that which we possess. If we don't give ourselves compassion and understanding, like, everything around us is going to suffer. Everything around us is going to be a reflection of what it is that we give ourselves. If I'm ever out and like somebody on tip and they screaming at the waitress, or they driving crazy, or they like, I don't never take it personal, because I know that they're treating themselves 10 times worse than they just treat me. And I know that it's not personal. My name could be Bill, Bob, Rob, or James, and they would have treated me the same way, right? So what I would say is just pay attention, like, listen. The things that pop up are there for a reason. So when there's anxiety, like when there's anger, when there's frustration, when there's loneliness, like, these things are there to be investigated. And through that investigation, which may be a little painful, through that investigation will come a, a higher understanding of your circumstances and why you feel the ways that you feel. Because just like you said, you use the analogy of the knife in the back. I use the analogy of a stove in flames. Like, if I put my hand on the stove and my hand didn't feel the pain that allows me to draw my hand back, my hand would just burn up, right? So how useful is this pain that lets me know, like, yo, you need to adjust your experience for your wellness sake, right? So a lot of these feelings that we feel can be investigated, can be listened to compassionately. Not because what we tend to do is, oh man, why I feel this way again, or oh man, I gotta shut my heart off, or oh man, like, let me go ahead and get something to drink real quick, because, like, like, this is always the time where I feel like this, or this time of year I always feel like this. Like, so no, like, let's really start listening to it. Let's whip the journal out. Let's go find somebody to talk to. Let's tap into community that's based on, because, like you said, that the bereavement, like, there are so many different circles where we can go and kind of discuss out loud these things with people that are going through these same things. Whether it be a 12-step program, or to be a group for overthinkers, or it be a group with people who deal with attention deficit disorder. Like, there's mad groups everywhere that we could tap into and find community around what it is that we're trying to deal with. But I would suggest meditation, journaling, find community, use resources like this, like what Ernest is putting together with E. James, Heal from the Pain, like what we doing here, like, have this on bang on the back when you move in life, like on your radio, be paying attention. You feel that with Bryce the Third. There's all these resources, there's books, there's all these resources to tap in, and just having the willingness to seek a different way, to seek the tools that may be able to be useful to building a life that you desire, and also getting intentional about like you said, Ernest, like getting intentional about what do you want your life to be? Because the whole thing is like if you are okay with being anxious and scared and angry, and like if you don't see any problem with it, you're not gonna you're not gonna want to change. Because
Right.
like wellness to me and wellness to you may be two different things. Maybe you are all right, maybe you feel straight, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with allowing everybody to, whatever you desire. Like if that's the life that you desire to live, then I'm not here to push anything on anybody, but I am here to make sure that if you do decide to live a life of emotional and mental wellness, that these tools and resources are available to you on the off rip. Because my experience was I had to seek these tools. Like I had to really like get the shovel out and dig. Because being a black man, I'm black, where we got like, oh, you crying, like you trying to work through your emotions. Like, don't you know we got all this stuff that we still haven't handled culturally? We still haven't really discussed like equity in America. Like, and you talking about you feel sad because you ain't had no dad. Like, you better shut up and let us, like, we got this bigger picture to deal with. And I'm a man, where it's like, oh, you a man, man up. Don't like, are you crying? Are you a chump? You a punk? Like, no, we don't do that. Hold that in, stuff that down, and push that down, because that's what we do. That's what a strong man is. So that's two things that out the gate, like I had to, like I'm having to overcome and like rewire myself from. So it's like I want to make sure that these tools are available to people who are looking for them, and that they're widely available, that it's loud. Because the more people that we have in this fight, I won't even say a fight, because I don't even like that imagery of conflict. The more people that we have hands and arms for this energy, like the better, the better, the bigger opportunity we have to lift each other up and in wellness, emotionally and mentally and spiritually.
Right, man. Again, how can the people find you? What platforms are you on, and what's your handles?
Yo, so I'm Bryce the Third, BryceTheThird, everywhere. Really, you could just Google Bryce the Third, something gonna pop up. You're gonna find me specifically. Tap into the podcast. You feel that with Bryce the Third, the premier podcast for those looking to grow, exceed, and excel in the world as a highly sensitive person, emotionally sensitive, whatever it is that you want to call yourself. You feel big feelings. I'm creating spaces for us because we need to have somewhere that we can go and build community. So tap in with me. You can shoot the word podcast to the phone number 313-254-5972. Once again, shoot podcast to 313-254-5972, and you'll get the episode, the latest episode, shot straight to your phone, along with encouraging texts every now and then.
All right, man. Again, Bryce, I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and your knowledge with the people. And I thank all of my listeners for tuning in again. Again, this is episode 14, so we in here. You know what I'm
Hey.
saying? We in here making it happen. So I appreciate y'all checking in. Again, this is the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and I believe that everybody can live a life that is whole, healthy, and happy. And so I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and to fulfill. Deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. So until next time, we will see you guys next week. Peace out.